We have in the studio this afternoon with us Deputy Head Paul Street from Sackville School. Paul, welcome to the Madhouse.
Good afternoon.
Lovely of you to come in and speak to us this afternoon. Now, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself first? What do you teach and how long have you been at Sackville School?
Well, some of the pupils, I think, would tell you that I've been there possibly too long. I think I arrived as head of geography back in 2002. I taught in Crawley previous to that. So I've been there now, 14 years.
All right. Well, it's a fair while. So you know your way around the school then. You don't need to use a little map thing anymore.
Yes, just.
I always remember that. Do you remember that, Steve?
Yes.
Did you get a map thing when you were at school? Yeah.
When you get to year 7, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's right. I couldn't work it out from the day I started to the day I left, but there you go. Now, the school had fantastic results this year, didn't it? And not that it doesn't every year, but they did seem to be particularly good this year. Have they improved since last year, and by what sort of percentage? Do you know?
Yeah, it's hard to talk about percentages. The new government measure for schools at the moment, school performance, is this new Progress 8. So it looks very much at the progress of every student regarding their ability, and is a true measure of a school's performance. Now, last year we were at 0.42, and we are absolutely delighted this year that we've got record-breaking results, and our Progress 8 figure is now 0.54. Now, that probably doesn't mean very much for your listeners, but what it really means is if you were, let's say, predicted to get 8 Ds at GCSE,
yeah.
If you came to Sackville, you would actually get 4 Ds and 4 Cs, and that obviously applies up at the top end as well. So if you were predicted 8 As at Sackville, you would actually achieve 4 As and 4 A stars. So basically, we as a school are adding half a grade on to every student across those 8 GCSE subjects.
So you mentioned there briefly the Project 8. What's that? Did the school volunteer to take part of that? I know it was a sort of a trial, wasn't it? Did you volunteer to take part, or was the school picked to take part in that Project 8?
We volunteered to take part last year in order to get that figure, which I quoted earlier, of 0.42. But this year, all schools across the country, that is the headline figures which schools will publish, and will be published in league tables, and that 0.54 is excellent. It should hopefully put us within the top 10% of schools in the country.
Gosh.
And I expect us to be even higher than that within West Sussex.
But then once all the schools are doing this Project 8, it will give a better sort of show of exactly where the schools are. And will we still have these league tables?
Yes, most definitely. It's the league tables will still be there. It's just the way they're reporting them is slightly different. But I do believe, with many people in education, that Progress 8 is a much fairer measure of performance than the 8 star which we have seen previously.
So, I mean, there was pictures in the paper of the young people celebrating and all the rest of it, and I guess a lot of them will go on to uni. Is there still a high percentage of them that will do this?
Yes, most definitely. The vast majority of students who enter our sixth form, certainly doing a more academic curriculum, an A-level curriculum, are likely to go on to university. And there's a real range of universities they go to. We always send students to Oxbridge each year, and obviously universities, kind of a wide variety of other universities across the country. There are some students who enter our sixth form who do more vocationally based courses, and we will then look for those individuals to go into work afterwards, maybe onto alternative educational courses, or possibly some of those may also go on to university.
I mean, there will be a percentage of children, I suppose, who choose for various reasons, and some of them could be financial, not to go to uni. But do you feel that there are enough opportunities for them to grow without a university education?
Yeah, this is a difficult one, I think, for students and for parents at the moment, with tuition fees being so high, and also the fact that many university students aren't finding employment once they've left. It's a really difficult choice to make whether you should take that road or not. I know there are a number of big firms in the city, big accountancy, big law firms. My wife works in the city in human resources, and they're actually setting up programs now to take students after A levels. So they're still looking for good A levels, but then they're going to train you and take you through, I suppose, that further education. But at least you're being paid and not being burdened with those large debts. So there are alternative routes out there, but they're also, as you can imagine, would be incredibly competitive. But we, as a school, feel we do our very best to ensure that those students are well prepared to go out there and compete.
No, so I guess, you know, with the confines of the expensiveness of going to uni and all the rest of it, do you know if the gap year is still popular?
Yeah, surprisingly, it is. We have quite a few of our students do a gap year. The word gap year is probably a gap 6 months now, so maybe that's a sign of austerity. I don't know. But what they tend to do is they tend to work for the first 6 months in order to get enough money. Some of that money may go towards their university education, and then they use the rest of the money to spend 6 months abroad doing many worthwhile things. I can quite understand that. And of course there's a lot of projects out there, helping build things out in Africa, etc., at schools and all the rest of it. You've got a lot of these organisations that will encourage young people to go out and actually do something when they're out abroad, rather than just wander around the world. So there's all sorts of opportunities still to do that sort of thing, I should imagine. Oh yeah, most definitely. And we obviously as a school offer to our sixth formers the World Challenge, which I believe a number of schools do, but that gives even our sixth formers the opportunity over the summer to spend 4 weeks in a developed country. This year our students went to Kerala in India, and they went out there and they helped build part of a school for a village, so they could then educate their children out there. So it's a great international links for our school, but a great experience for the students living in a very different culture. And once they've done that 2-week project, then they spend another couple of weeks then exploring the local area and doing some quite challenging hiking as well. Lovely teamwork though, because when you're at school you have to be quite insular, don't you, and every man for himself, and concentrate on getting your own best results. And then it's lovely to be part of a team doing something. It's just not only you're doing something as a group, and that's not often something that young people get the opportunity to do, is it, Steve? Most people seem to, when you're quite young, it's all about you.
Yes, and because that's kind of instilled in you, isn't it?
Yes.
Go to school, do your best, move on with your life.
That's right, but then in the world of work, very often you have to work in a team, don't you? So.
Yeah, most definitely, and that's one of the skills that we try to ensure all our students leave with. It's not just about exam results. I've spent a lot of time talking at the beginning about how great our exam results, and yes, they are great, but as a school we're very much about producing well-rounded citizens with the skills to live fulfilling lives.
Well, after this I'm just going to ask you about people's expectations regarding results. Steve, over to you, my lovely.
This is Meridian FM.
We are joined this afternoon by Paul Street, who is the Sackville School Deputy Head. And Paul and I have been talking about Sackville School's results this year. And I just mentioned there before we had a music break about talking about people's expectations, Paul. They think that the exams are easier than the old O-levels, but could it just be that they're covering different topics and a different range of knowledge? And the reason I mention that is that online on Facebook the other day, don't laugh, Mr. Kirapai, there was this sort of mock exam for the students of today. Well, it may as well have been in Greek. For all I can understand any of it, to be honest. Oh, I've got a few O-levels, excuse me, or GCSEs as they be called now. And I do wonder if people look at these results and think, oh, they're way easier than they were in my day. Do you get a lot of comments
we
like
do
that
hear a
from
little bit of
parents?
that. I think one of the important things to mention now is actually GCSEs are going through this revamp. You may have heard that they're going to be marked slightly differently. We're going to go to a number system from 9 down to 1, with 9 being the highest. And GCSEs are actually being made a lot more difficult than they were previously. A lot more knowledge and content. They're calling the new GCSE maths fat maths, because it's got a third more content now than it had previously. So actually, I think GCSEs are getting a lot more difficult than possibly they have been in the past.
So you won't have the A to G or whatever it was system any longer.
No,
it's going to be
that remains for the next year for the majority of subjects, except for maths and English. So maths and English next year, we won't be reporting A star to G, but we will actually be reporting about 9 to 1, 9 being the highest grade. And that grade 9 is supposed to be the equivalent of an A star, so even a higher grade than the current A star, to challenge even the most able students.
So you don't think, though, that's going to put added pressure on people, that, you know, you take home your results and your parents go, oh, you only got a 7 then, didn't get a 9. You know, if you've been on the old system, you know, I got A stars. But I don't know if it's going to add a bit more pressure to the young people or not. Possibly.
I must say, you know, year 11s, I'm sure in every school, feel under a lot of pressure to perform their best. But at Sackville, we focus on everybody achieving what we call minimum expected grade. So every student has their own minimum expected grade at the school, which we as staff expect them to get, and we do our very utmost to make sure they achieve that, if not in the majority of cases actually exceed it.
Will you have to change the teaching techniques, or you know, will the students' day be different to try and sort of, if you're needing to cram more information into them, how's that going to work?
That's a good question. I think, yes, we are going to have to change some of the teaching. We've got a lot more content to deliver. But I think more importantly, the government have also got rid of controlled assessment and coursework in many, many subjects. So in geography, where we were previously 25% of the GCSE exam was coursework based, now it's 100% exam. So we need to be preparing students even better to take and perform in examination situations.
There might be an argument there, though, that some pupils they're very good and they can produce fantastic coursework. They get into an exam situation, they go to pieces.
Yeah, that's a real challenge for all schools, and possibly some unfairness within the system as well. But we're investing a lot of time at Sackville in actually preparing students for exam, how to deal with exam stress. One of the things we're trialling this year is a mindfulness course with many of our students, to make sure they're able to get into the right frame of mind before even going into examinations.
That's really interesting.
Yes, that's a good idea, that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we are also very critical in this particular geographical area when students do not do well or they don't go to university. You know, the first thing that a parent asks another parent is, what's little Johnny doing now? Is he at uni? My two are at uni, you know. No, a lot of this goes on. But, of course, in other parts of the country, getting any mark at all at GCSE is a really real achievement. You know, some kids have got a D or an E or even an F, and the parents are going, oh, Johnny's got a GCSE, and they're virtually putting flags out. Do you think that because we consistently see high standards, we assume that some of these grades haven't been worked for in this area? Do you think that there's quite a few parents out there that don't realise that we just happen to be in a really lucky area education-wise, and our kids are receiving a fantastic education with the support of parents who are making sure that they go to school every day and getting there on time? But, you know, we get a little bit blasé about the fact that so many young people here have got good grades.
I think you're right. The young people of East Grinstead and their parents, the community as a whole, is incredibly lucky. You've got two excellent secondary schools in Sackville and in Behorn, and parents don't have to make those tough decisions about schools, which you do face in some areas of the country.
Absolutely. I remember watching a TV programme not so long ago, and it was in a very deprived part of the north, and the young people there, most of them were not doing exams at all, and the one or two that were, the parents were so thrilled that their children had got 2 GCSEs, and yet our young people are coming out of the schools with, what was the average this year, Paul? Was it?
Well, for Sackville, the average GCSE grade was somewhere between a C and a D. So 75% of all GCSEs taken at Sackville this year were grade C or above.
And how many GCSEs were the young people on average coming out with?
It varied, but anywhere between 8 and possibly 11 or 12 GCSEs.
Wow,
Goodness
11
me.
or 12.
Yeah, you see what I mean, Steve? It's you know, and this becomes the norm in this sort of area. But as I say, in other deprived parts of the country, if a young person gets 1 GCSE, you know, the parents are quite rightly, you know, equally thrilled. And I do think we get a little bit complacent here about how well our young people are doing, and how
that's great to the schools and the teachers, because they do a good job, and then we automatically expect
or do a slightly better job now.
Isn't it? Yeah. I mean, do you feel that pressure, as in, okay, we've exceeded last year's grades, and we have to kind of at least match or even try to improve on that? And do you find the teaching then becomes a bit more, probably stressful is the wrong word, but a bit more challenging?
Yeah, I think,
stress is a good word, actually, because you often hear about teachers being under a lot of stress.
Because you think, I've got the kids from, I don't know, a C to a B, and yes, I have to make sure that this year as well I'm getting B or even A.
Well, you know, I think success kind of breeds a success type culture, and I know our staff are incredibly motivated at Sackville, and they just want to do better and better every year. And if you look at our results over the last 4 years, they have, you know, got better every year. So there's kind of an expectation amongst the staff in order to get better every year, and they're doing a very good job at it at the moment.
Absolutely. Do you find that the teachers are getting good support, especially from the parents, but more especially from government bodies, with the way that teaching has had to change to keep this momentum going of the grades?
I've got to say the parents and the community of East Grinstead are very supportive of the school and what the school does. You know, I like all teachers in the teaching profession. The government changes the goalposts and the curriculum and things like that on a very regular basis, but you know, we have to work within those boundaries, and we will do our very best to do so.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I often wonder if we kind of went back to years ago to the 3 core subjects of reading, writing, and what's the other thing? The thing with numbers, Steve, mathematics and all that sort of thing. Okay. You know, if you went back to the old school, and would we still be seeing the grades that we're getting now? There was a while back where people were saying that, you know, young people were coming out, but they didn't know anything about books, and they didn't know how to spell, and you know, and they couldn't add up. They didn't know their times table, all the sort of basics from years ago. Do you think that what you're teaching now actually prepares them better as well for life as what they were getting, say, 50 years ago?
Yes, most definitely. I think we live in an ever-changing world at the moment, and one of the things I always find incredibly interesting is that most of the jobs or occupations that our students will actually go into don't even exist now. So you have to question what are you preparing them for? In that sense. So we have to prepare them to be adaptable. So there's lots of skills which I think are taught within schools now which weren't taught in the past. All about academic content and knowledge. It's about skills and acquisitions as well.
Now, Rotary, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I was at Sackville School, and I must just mention, I love the level access into the school now, because it used to be clambering up steps time, didn't it, years ago? Yes, I was really shows how long I've been since I've been to the school. It's lovely level access to go in, and Rotary was there giving the school a grant to assist with after-school choir practice. What other extracurricular groups are there at Sackville, and do you get a high take-up of young people staying after school to do different things?
Yeah, a vast majority of our students will stay for an hour, even up to a couple of hours after school, doing a variety of extracurricular activities. See, there's the sporting activities that we have, and Sackville's well renowned for its sport. We're very successful, but we're also very inclusive. Now,
but of course it was Imberhorn, the school that I went to, that used to thrash you years ago.
Well, I don't know about
that.
Pause disagreeing there.
But there's quite a few things that young people
most
do.
Definitely. One of the things we're most proud of at Sackville is our observatory, and we are a kind of space education school. So we've got an observatory, and we often have regular stargazing nights run by our head of science, Steve Bush, who received an award last year, I don't know if you're aware of that, from the Royal Astronomical Society for the work he's done with young people in secondary education on space education.
Well, congratulations on that. We have Starry Steve Bond coming, don't we, regularly? Yeah. So I'm getting really close. I'm getting really good, aren't I, Steve? I'm actually managing to keep. Good afternoon, you're listening to Rotary on the Radio on 107 Meridian FM. It's Ginny and Steve with you this afternoon until 4 o'clock. And we have got Paul Street here, the Sackville School Deputy Head, in the studio. And I'm just going to ask him one of these very topical questions. Paul, how do you feel about the recent debate to bring back grammar schools? You can give a personal opinion if you prefer, rather than an official school opinion.
It's an interesting one. It was came a little bit out of the blue, but I think with talking obviously to the East Grinstead community here, do East Grinstead need a grammar school? I don't think so is probably my answer there, in the fact that the two schools here, as I've already mentioned, are quite excellent, and we do our very best for every student regarding of their ability. And as I previously mentioned, every year at Sackville, and the same applies to Imberhorn as well, students come out with the very highest grades, and both schools regularly send students to Oxbridge. So you can see here that even our most able students achieve and do their very best.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I was actually the guinea pig year from when the schools changed over from being grammar school to and secondary modern to comprehensive. The only problem that I had was, of course, a lot of the teachers that I encountered were grammar school, the old grammar school teachers, and they all thought we were secondary modern children. So, there was a little bit of their expectations of us were not very high, let's put it that way, and not many people were encouraged to go on to do A-levels or further education because they didn't think we were capable of it, because we're 30, 40 maybe?
Be careful.
I don't know. It's a very different world, and I think if you threw a grammar school into the mix here now, it could really impact on the two local schools, because you would in effect lose most of your brighter students, wouldn't you, to the grammar school, because parents still have this thing of, let's send our children to the grammar school.
Yeah, possibly. I think that's possibly the case in Kent, but I don't know if parents around here, if the parents locally know that both East Grinstead schools are excellent. They schools, our results show that. Our Progress A scores show that. As I mentioned right at the beginning of the show, if you go to Sackville, you get half a grade better than you go to the average school in this country. So that shows, we are in the top percent of schools in this country, and that includes grammar schools. So there is really no need for a grammar school around here. And, we fight and have high expectations for every student, regardless of their academic ability.
Do you receive extra funding if your school's doing well from the government or not?
No.
Oh.
So success
If only.
Is that what you...
No, that's a bit off, isn't
Yes,
it?
yeah.
Yes. Well, I think you should. I think we'll start a campaign for that. Yes. Good schools should get more money. So when does Sackville hold its open days, or can potentially any students come any time to look at the school? And how about prospectus and things like that? Is there plenty of info online?
Yeah, obviously loads of info online about this, but just so people are aware, our open evening this year is on Thursday the 22nd of September, so that's a week on Thursday. It starts at 5:30 and finishes at 8:30, and Julian Grant, our head teacher, will be addressing parents at 6:30 and 7:30. However, we would encourage parents to actually come and have a tour of the school when the students are in and see us on a normal working day. So the following week, Monday the 26th of September to Friday the 30th of September, we will be running daytime tours from 9 a.m. But don't worry, if you can't make it, drop us an email and we will sort something out at an alternative time.
Are those dates and things on your website?
They are, yes.
Yeah, so
Which
if you
is-
didn't quite catch it, which is...
www.sackvilleschool.co.uk.
Brilliant. We'll obviously
Yeah.
let that information out later on as well.
Exactly. Now, is there anything else you want to tell us about the school that we haven't already covered?
No, not really. I think we've covered a lot this morning.
We certainly
I'm
have.
obviously...
Wonderful school, great results, younger looking teachers, motivated. What more do you want?
Blind presenters, is that where you were going with that?
I would totally agree with everything apart from the blind presenter.
Now, I must just say, we were talking there about young people going to uni or not going to uni and all the rest of it, and I'm just going to do a little mummy boast. Can I do a mummy boast?
Yes, go ahead.
Of course. Both of mine went to Sackville. One of them went to university, and she now runs her own business and very successful. The other one, he chose not to go to university, is doing equally well, works in IT, and very happy bunnies, both of them. And so, I'm just saying that as a reassurance.
Which is what Paul touched on briefly,
exactly.
didn't he? That you don't have
as a reassurance that you don't have to go to university. It is a wonderful tool. If it's right for you, do it. If you don't feel that it's right for you, or you don't feel it's right for your child, don't stress over it, because success still can happen, and I can warrant that because of what's happened to my two. But yeah, Sackville was good for them, and I hope it continues to be good for all the pupils that are there. It was certainly lovely visiting the other day, Steve, with our
I'm glad we were able
Bob.
to help.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we were able to help, and thank you so much, Paul, for coming in
Who
today.
knows, we'll be speaking to Paul maybe this time next year, where he says we've even improved further from this year's.
And he'll be
Let's
trying to
hope so.
explain these new marks to us. Hopefully everyone will have got to grips with them by then. Thank you, Paul, and good luck in the future. And give our good regards to Julian Grant, because he was originally intending to come in, but he couldn't, and he very kindly said that he would invite you to come in his place. So thank
Brilliant.
you for
Well,
doing
thank
that.
you very much for having me.
Thank you. Lovely to see you.
When the music's this good, it's got to be Meridian FM.
You have been listening to a recorded live interview with Paul Steet, Deputy Head of Sackville School, East Grinstead, on Rotary on the Radio show on 107 Meridian FM. The show is produced by the East Grinstead Meridian Rotary Club and transmitted live every Saturday between 1 and 4 o'clock. You can also listen to the show on the internet just by going to meridianfm.com and clicking on the Live Listen tab. If you are interested in knowing more about Rotary in East Grinstead, then go to our website, meridianrotary.co.uk, and you can contact us by email or telephone. Thank you for listening.